On the day I received the admission letter from Peking University, my mother knelt down in front of me and begged me to give my place in school to my younger brother. My sister also protected my younger brother and looked at me coldly. Without your brother, how could you become this brother? My father even took out his belt and hit me. As a brother, you don't even give your younger brother a chance to go to college. You are such an ungrateful person. You must not die well. Dad is right. I am really dying. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, the whole family gathered in front of the TV to watch the Mid-Autumn Festival program. The scene was happy and warm. Even a piece of mooncake on the table was exactly divided into 4 pieces. My sister and brother congratulated my parents on their health and harmony. My parents did not ask for wealth and honor for their 2 children, but only for smooth and healthy life. But no one would remember that there was another me. Until the urgent ringing of the phone broke the short warmth. But when my mother saw the phone note, she looked at me with a stern look and muted the phone directly. My younger brother smiled and asked who called. My mother gently touched his head. The phone that was always unreachable for sales shattered my last glimmer of hope. Just like that, I died. I was killed in the alley. I also died on the Mid-Autumn Festival, which symbolizes reunion. It is said that after a person dies, his soul will return to his relatives and enter their dreams to express his longing. But if my parents saw me wake up in their dreams, they would also curse me for bad luck. As soon as I walked through the door, I felt the warmth I had never felt before. I sat down next to my mother lightly. In the past, I could only sit in the corner next to the sofa with a small stool. I always fantasized that one day I could sit next to my parents, but until I died, this wish could not be realized. This is my younger brother, leaning on my father intimately, with tears in his eyes. Why hasn't my brother come back yet? Is he still angry with me? But I really want to go to college. If it weren't for my poor health and failure in the college entrance examination, I would also. Dad wiped away the tears from my younger brother's eyes with heartache, and patiently coaxed us to the school to invite military training home, and stuck his admission letter, so he had to agree even if he didn't agree. My sister was also very sensible and poured a cup of warm water for my parents. That's it, isn't it just reading a book? I don't know what kind of temper Tan Nuanlai has. He's just a Peking University student, not Tsinghua University. Is he more important than his own brother? Mom sighed, touched his pale face, and felt very distressed. If you want to blame someone, blame your mother. If your brother had not been born with a congenital disease, I would not have conceived you for the umbilical cord blood and let you suffer in this world. Who knows that you gave him a healthy body, but he still doesn't know how to be grateful. It's this sentence again. From childhood to adulthood, I have always been an ungrateful person and a jinx in their mouths. If I hadn't had a congenital disease, I wouldn't have given birth to my brother, so I owe him all my life. Taking advantage of this Mid-Autumn Festival holiday, my parents held a graduation banquet for my brother at home and invited many people. All the aunts and uncles gathered together. They said words of blessing and showed off their children. When the graduation banquet was over, my mother finally remembered me and impatiently dialed the number marked as ungrateful person, but it took a long time to get through. At this time, my mother turned around and couldn't help complaining to my father about him. I don't know where his temper comes from. He didn't even answer my call. He didn't even leave me a peaceful day. Mom, why are you calling him? Aren't you afraid of being cheated by him? But my sister said she wouldn't call me, but she still took out her phone and called me frantically, from the address book to WeChat and then QQ phone. Surprisingly, she really got through. Su Lian, did you go out to fool around? You didn't come home at night, making my parents worry. You were cheated and you didn't hold it back. Do you think you are the only one with a temper? You are so old, and you still fight with your brother for things? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Liang Jiucai replied, you dialed the wrong number. My sister was stunned for a moment. It was my mother who grabbed the phone and dialed the wrong number. I will accompany you to tell Su Lian, the prodigal son, that he is causing trouble outside. Don't think about giving him more. We can't afford to lose this person. When I heard my biological mother say this, my soul, which was already full of flies, had another wound. They will never know how desperate I was under that full moon. I remember that on the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival, my mother talked to me alone. She sighed first and said that the military training was over and classes would officially start after the Mid-Autumn Festival. You should give your brother the opportunity to go to college. I was so disappointed with this family that I naturally retorted angrily, I can give him everything except this one. Sulian, don't forget that you are my son. Without us, you are nothing. I sneered. Do you still know that I am your son? Wen Yan's mother said nothing but glanced at my mother. The latter found a clothes-drying rack and hit me. The steel scab wound on my body was split open again. I tell you, we are just notifying you, not asking for your consent. The one who goes to college must be Chile, and it has nothing to do with you. I wanted to resist, but the result was that I was kicked out of the house. It was already very late at that time. There were no pedestrians on the road. I wanted to find a place to stay, but when I was halfway there, I felt a shadow following me. I was very scared and ran away when I walked. I didn't stop until I saw the shadow, but at this moment, a huge impact force knocked me to the side of the road. The driver of the car smiled cruelly at me. The next second, the tire of the car repeatedly rolled over my legs. The severe pain almost made me faint. Taking advantage of the last bit of consciousness, I took out my mobile phone and called the emergency contact I set. I begged silently, begging my mother to answer my call, but I didn't get a response until the phone responded to blinding, hanging up. The man got out of the car after finding out. Run, run, aren't you healthy and run fast? I grabbed his arm, but he slapped me with his backhand. My head was buzzing. Who are you? I have no grudges against you, but he just smiled grimly. Sulian, don't you bully Chile just because you have a healthy body? Chile suit Chile, it turns out that this man has a relationship with my brother. How could Su Chile be related to such a person? When did I bully Su Chile? My face was filled with horror and tears, but no matter how I explained, he would not listen. Instead, his eyes were red. He took out a knife from his pocket and cut me hard until my blood ran dry and I was in so much pain that I could not breathe. I couldn't understand why I died here, why he wanted to kill me for his brother. Maybe there was too much resentment and unwillingness before death, so my soul could return home, like a bumpy road. I watched everything that happened in the past few days quietly. In the past few days, Su Chile also went to the university he had always dreamed of. On weekends, my mother would happily go to the supermarket she often went to pick out the vegetables he liked. When checking out, the cashier casually said, "Leanne's mother, why haven't you seen your eldest son for so long? I still remember when you gave birth to the third child, he, a little kid, came to the supermarket to buy vegetables and make soup for you. At that time, everyone praised him for being sensible." My mother smiled awkwardly. He never said good things about me in front of outsiders, because in his heart, my brother and sister should be the most promising. At this time, the police station suddenly called, and he knew that I was dead. I looked at him quietly, trying to see a little sadness on his face, but he just calmly put away his phone. Sure enough, I shouldn't have such expectations. This meal was eaten very quietly. This dish is too salty, isn't it? Mom, did you knock over the salt shaker? Su Chile said with a look of disgust. Also, I don't like bitter melon, why should I do it? My mother was stunned for a while, looking at the bitter melon for a long time and couldn't come back to her senses. Su Chile, I don't like bitter melon, I don't like it, because our lives are all equally bitter. At this time, my father suddenly got angry. Enough, can't you stop your mouth with food? I'll pick up Leon home after eating. Hearing this, Su Chile's face was pale and light. After dinner, she didn't even clean up the dishes. The family came to the police station. The female police on duty said it was a robbery, and then took them to the morgue. The body was found in the garbage dump. It was the garbage dump security who reported the alarm. The white cloth was lifted and the shape was horrible. Su Chile couldn't help squatting down and started to play puppets when she saw it the first time. My sister and father didn't dare to look at it again after the first look. Only my mother scanned it from head to toe. She looked at the lower half of the body, which had been limp into a pulp, and her breathing was not stopping. The policewoman flipped through the results of the incident. He was brutally tortured before his death. His eyes were dug out, his legs were repeatedly crushed, and there were 96 knife wounds in his lower abdomen. My mother took a breath and raised her head slightly. At present, the murderer Chen Ji has been arrested and has confessed to the crime. However, part of the reason is related to your eldest son. You need to make another biography. When Su Chile heard the name of the murderer, she didn't bother to ask back, and shouted loudly, "I don't know him." Although she said so, the police still took him to make a biography. My mother asked the policewoman in a hoarse voice, "Can I see him?" The policewoman nodded in agreement. In the interrogation room, the man's hands were detained. When he saw my mother, he suddenly smiled and said, "Chili Mom, you are here, then Chili should come too. I will help him kill his most hated brother. He will definitely be happy." My mother's lips trembled. "Did Chili ask you to kill him?" The man shook his head. "Chili? Mom, do you know? You are Sulian's emergency contact. Why didn't you answer the phone? I thought you should also spend the Mid-Autumn Festival together," but he kept shouting for help. My mother opened her eyes wide and stood up suddenly. Seeing this, the female police took my mother out of the interrogation room. At this time, my mother's breathing was rapid and her eyes were erratic. The female police asked him what was wrong, but he didn't say anything. I have never been his beloved child. Why does he still have such an expression on his face? I was speechless. On the day of the cremation of the body, everyone was silent, only Chili cried heartbreakingly. The staff at the crematorium saw it and said that the two brothers had a good relationship. Chili cried and responded, "I only have him as my biological brother." My mother didn't even have a sad expression. She silently went to attend someone else's funeral. Chili cried and went to her mother's arms. My mother said nothing, but pushed her away, which was unusual for her. Chili looked guilty and said, "Mom, are you blaming me? I really have nothing to do with that murderer, and she is so scary, maybe she will kill me next." My mother still didn't speak, but her eyes fell on him, and she said coldly, when the policewoman was taking the statement, "She said that you often posted on WeChat moments saying that Leon bullied you. You are old, are you? And only your father and I are in WeChat moments, and your sister is invisible. Have you been lying since you were a child?"